Hello, 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 everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our Q4 office hours. I'm Georgette Lopez Aguado, and joining me is Rick Seaman, our Director of Product Management. We are happy to welcome a host of fantastic guests, including 3 of our product managers and our Chief Technical Officer, and we'll be making those introductions along the way. I also want to give a shout out to our fantastic marketing team that's behind the scenes, running the ELF workshop, making sure that everything is going smoothly today. We will be checking the comments and answering questions at the end of today's presentation as time allows. And if we can't actually get to those questions, then we'll reach out and follow up with you after the fact. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Rick Seaman and have him kick us off for the next steps. You're on mute. Cannot hear Rick at the moment. Oh, technology is fun.
You hear me now? No way.
So while we're going to figure that out with Rick, I am going to share with you guys that we have got a fantastic drawing that we're going to do at the end of today's presentation. And if you have not had a chance to complete the survey, we're going to drop a link into the comments section. And that is going to really help guide us on priorities and the things that you guys need for any additional information. So everybody else can hear him and I can't. So that's fine. He'll have to speak too. I'll just have to wait until he stops moving his lips, I guess. That's the shenanigans we're talking about. I will work on my settings and see if we can't get this taken care of. But Rick is going to come back and join us, and we're going to drop that link for the survey into our comments section for the Apple AirPod Max headphones that will draw live at the end of today's event. So it's a little 5-minute survey. You should be able to complete it even while we're online today, and we are going to be doing that drawing at the end of today's presentation. Rick, are you going to be able to come back and join me? Audio. Well, we're just going to continue to move forward while we get this figured out. We've got our fantastic marketing team in the background. They've been getting the information out on LinkedIn, and we'll be sharing a copy of this as well. And without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce our Chief Technical Officer, Steve Shillingsburg. Steve has got some great information to share with us all.
All right, so hopefully you can hear me. Yes, all right, getting the nod. It definitely is better that the Chief Technology Officer has technology working for him today. So so I just wanted to spend a little bit of time and just talk a little bit about the investments that we've been making on the platform. For those of you who don't know, I'm relatively new to the organization, joined in the beginning of this year, and I really wanted to kind of highlight some of the things that we've been working on, from not just feature function, but also how we think about the platform from scaling, performance, and reliability. I'm really excited to point out some of the things that we've done, some of the things that we've achieved, and some of the things that we will be doing. I did, when I joined, we made it a point to have a dedicated set of resources to improving in these areas. Certainly recognize that we can be better when it comes to scaling, when it comes to performance, when it comes to reliability. And we really focused on a number of areas. So application response times. We've done a lot of infrastructure work, and we have a lot more to do. But we've already been able to see performance improvements at our application response times of over 25%. And I have a goal to get us to 50 to 75% in response times in our application. We've also focused on performance and reliability around our auto pay. Every month at the beginning of the month, one of our highest volumes days. And to be frank, we weren't really, that performant. We weren't always necessarily that reliable at the beginning of the month. we made significant investments in the infrastructure, dedicated a lot of work to this, and I'm really confident as to where we are today, and also where we're going to be going with this. And so, certainly have seen a number of improvements there, and hopefully, you recognize that. Also focusing on things like webhook response times, provisioning response times, and reliability. And I've set a number of OKRs for going into 2025 as to where this is going to be. And this is really about growing, not just with you, not just with our customers, but really thinking well beyond where our customers are going to grow. I want to also, sort of talk about some of the things that we're investing when it comes to, our disaster recovery. Earlier this year, we were hit by that big Azure outage that impacted many organizations, like the airline industry. Well, we were impacted by that as well, and you know what? That's not good enough. So we're going to be making a number of the investments that we're making in infrastructure are also kind of centered around our ability to make sure that we're just up 24/7. And that is really the mantras that we have. So how can we grow with you, but also ahead of you? And how can we make sure that we are the most reliable platform in the industry? I'm very happy with the results so far, but going in through Q1, you're going to be seeing a lot more improvements, and really through the remainder of 2025. So that's really our focus right now. We have a dedicated set of folks that are working on this, or it's one of the top priorities in our organization. We want to continue to meet your needs, but we also want to be able to make sure that we're up, we're running, and always reliable. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it back to Rick, who I think we can hear now.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Thanks so much. And I saw, as I was exiting there, a couple comments in the chat. I think right before I left, there was a few words coming through. So hopefully that issue is fully solved. And yeah, Steve, good to see you. Thank you so much for providing that update. Obviously, very important priority for us, 2024, 2025, and beyond. One thing that we do want to talk about, though, is a little bit of a look back at the year. We're going to have some special guests coming on. As Georgette mentioned, we have our product team here today, and kicking that off is going to be Lauren. So without further ado, Lauren's going to tell us about a couple of her favorite things.
And of course, I'm out of focus. Thank you, camera. Thank you. Is it going to be me and you here?
I think so.
Okay. Well, I'll be blurry. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to come on today and talk about a couple things that really came out of our team here. The first one, I think that is an exciting feature, is custom links that came out a couple months ago, which provides the option to create easily accessible and personalized links on your accounts or tickets right now. And the best part, and really where the flexibility comes in with custom links, is the ability to use custom field data to actually build out where the link is going to give quick access to things like third-party applications and resources directly from Sonar.
Super flexible feature. And you mentioned driven from custom fields, but also one of the things that I think is pretty cool is the ability to use the ID of the related entity as well. Can you maybe tell us about some of the creative ways that customers are leveraging that to do things beyond just getting you from A to B?
For sure. So with the use of custom fields, like we can really use them to access any related software, preventing you from having to search for that same account within whatever other software there is. So that's just the easiest use of the custom fields for things like Salesforce or any internal systems you may be using. The other interesting way to use custom links with the Sonar ID, like you mentioned, is to put it in the link, and you can use it for middleware operations to do like an automated workflow that is triggered by the use of that link using the Sonar ID. So really, really powerful stuff that can be made use of.
Absolutely. That's very cool. And what else did you want to highlight here from the look back at 2024?
So the second thing I wanted to highlight is really just incremental improvements we've made to Sonar Pay throughout the year. We have worked towards and continue to work towards making Sonar Pay the experience we really want it to be. So highlights for the year include things like the integrated dispute viewing. We implemented a return bank account workflow. We've updated the refund workflow, and with that introduced the ability to explicitly void a payment. Prior, you did have to refund it. And most recently, we've made an update to our processing to ensure that credit card updates are reflected in Sonar, like updates to the expiry date, for example.
Those little things make a huge difference. Not having to keep your attentions on two ecosystems is a huge boon, and certainly continuing down that path is something that I know we're committed to really make good on that promise. So yeah, it's been really nice to see many of those things come to life over the course of the year, and I know there is more to come. So yeah, I really appreciate you sharing those with us, Lauren. I think we're going to move on to Tope now to tell us a couple of his things. Thanks for joining. Tope, welcome.
Hi, Rick. Yeah, thanks, Rick. I'm excited to be here and excited to have our customers listen to us.
Absolutely. Nice, nice hat, by the way. I'd be remiss not to mention.
Thank you.
Cool. So if I recall correctly, we were going to kick things off by talking about a shift that we made, kind of a strategic shift with handling NetFlow data. I guess to set the table, because not everyone knows, I guess, what is NetFlow data real quick? How is it traditionally used, and why should people care?
Yeah, thanks, Rick. So basically, NetFlow is a network protocol that was originally developed by Cisco to collect and analyze IP traffic as it flows through a network. So in simple terms, I'll say it's like a detailed traffic report, for a network to show who is communicating from what source, and how data is being transferred within the network. So that's just to put it in simple terms. So typically, the use cases for NetFlow would be for tracking data usage for billing purposes, for customers who offer usage-based billing to their customers, to their subscribers, and also for monitoring network traffic for those who want to understand, how their traffic patterns, and also data utilization within their network. So this will help them kind of easily identify bottlenecks and then make proactive network optimization decisions.
Sure. So you're absolutely right. I mean, if you're doing usage-based billing, it's essential. A lot of the time, that's the best way to get that data into Sonar, so it can be driven and translated into what those overages would look like, et cetera. But it's informational too. And even if you're not doing UBB, it can be useful to get those flows in. Now, NetFlow is it's essentially a stream, right? And it uses UDP traffic. So one of those things that you have to realize is if your routers or whatever network devices are generating those streams, the destination for those streams, the NetFlow receiver, essentially, it's important to contextualize that. And I know that our previous approach to this essentially used the cloud as the receiver, and I think that kind of reality it imposed some limitations and maybe just some realities that weren't getting us the performance we were looking for. Is that what solidified the pivot into the on-premise approach?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We actually shifted to the on-premise approach based on the feedback that we got from the customers. They are the users, so we released the cloud-based version to our Sonar V2 customers. So we got feedback from them that they had sometimes they experience data loss. When there is probably maybe some kind of internet issues, or when packets just basically drop within their network during periods of high network volumes. So, and of course, we want to ensure that our customers are able to actually capture the data that is being used by their subscribers so that they can build them accordingly. So
Absolutely.
that feedback was one of the reasons why we decided to look at the cloud architecture, then change the architecture to one that would kind of resolve that issue. Another thing that we realized with the cloud solution was that, when you have to transfer a large volume of raw flow data from your network as a customer all the way to Sonar in cloud, you understand that there would be sometimes high level of latency. So, and once you have high level of latency, data is not arriving as at when it should be arrived, then you probably have some issues trusting the data that the insights that you're actually capturing from the data that is arriving. So we looked at these two major issues and we decided to now move the net flow collector all the way to our customers' premises, so that that does all the collection of the data from the network devices, does all the processing, the aggregation. They just sends us just the usage statistics for us to now present to the user in the UI.
Right. And again, realizing that those flows are UDP traffic, having to traverse all of the internet and to get to the cloud receiver, now you can have those nice and close. And if there happens to be any transport issues between the on-premise server and the cloud, those periodic updates that the server brings to Sonar are now TCP. So, a lot better flexibility and error handling there as well. So I think, yeah, that the approach definitely makes sense. And this is coming very soon, right? This is in a closed beta right now. I would say early, say somewhere in Q1 for sure. If you are interested in this, it should be available. It's a very similar approach to how we took with the customer portal, essentially, or with Pulse. There will be a GitHub repository. You can download that package and get your server prepared. And essentially, the server, you size that to your network, right, Tope? So if you've got a really high volume network, you get a high horsepower server, and you have a lot more control with this approach. So I think it's going to be a big win for those that do want to take advantage of NetFlow. And the other thing that you were going to talk about today was Anchor Linked, right? That was something from earlier in the year.
Yeah, Anchor Link. That's another exciting feature that we released earlier in the year. And the core function of Anchor Link is to create programmatic relationship between serviceable addresses, basically. So, and what does that mean? That means that our customers can establish relationship between various types of service locations, whether they are in units within a multi-dwelling unit MDU, or in a main office and its branches, or houses in an HOA. Just different wholesale billing situations. So definitely an interesting feature.
I think that's an important thing to highlight. I know with discussions I've had with customers, sometimes when it comes up, they say, well, I'm not doing MDUs, so that's of no interest to me. I think your point is absolutely right. Really, at its core, at its simplest form, it's giving you the ability to set up kind of a hierarchical relationship in a finite way between your serviceable address location records in Sonar. And you can stop it there and it's just the relationship, and that can be useful for reporting and that sort of thing. Or you can really get kind of into the deeper functionality of Anchor Linked when it comes to like setting up unique billing rules, setting up unique service catalogs per location. So say you do have a building that you are contractually obligated to sell from a subset of your services under maybe unique pricing, unique naming. It can do all of those things. It really is quite flexible, and there's a lot of building automation that can be driven through it, but you don't have to go that deep with it either. So I would say if you're doing anything, to your point, Tope, wholesale or wholesale adjacent, definitely recommend checking out that feature, because it does imbue a lot of new flexibility into the addresses that otherwise wasn't really something that could be driven programmatically prior.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining, Tope. I think we have one more special guest for now, and Georgette is going to bring Warren on.
And Rick, I just got to give you a shout out on that Christmas Story T-shirt. I think you win for best dressed on the webinar today. Well done. Well done, my friend.
Thank you. It's Italian.
Fragile. Warren, I'm so glad to have you join us today. And I know you've got a couple of exciting features that we've recently released. And I think we're going to get this party started with that future serviceable address feature. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that works?
Yep. Thanks, Georgette. And hey, everyone. Excited to be here today. So for the future serviceable addresses feature, I wanted to start off with providing a little background on the feedback we received from our users. And what we had heard was a lot of the challenges that were being experienced when managing account changes for their subscribers moving locations. And an example of this is an existing subscriber that has an active service today that requests to transfer their services to a new address that already has an active service. And in the past, to manage this, various workarounds were being used, such as creating duplicate addresses.
Mhm.
And these were found to be very inefficient, required a lot of manual effort, and if not managed correctly, would impact the accuracy of your data. And this is where future serviceable addresses really shines. Sorry, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, especially because the inventory is tied to that serviceable address. So it was just a mismatch. So
Yes, absolutely. So we've definitely identified the need to improve this workflow. And future serviceable addresses is really designed to do just that. And what it allows you to do is to build that relationship between the account and the future serviceable address ahead of any of the actual moves, so that you can plan ahead and schedule your jobs for these subscriber changes, improving your overall ability to manage this workflow.
So now on the overview page in an account, you can see the currently assigned address and the future address. Can you also see the previous address for that particular customer?
Yes, exactly. Everything is available for you to see on the account overview page, the current, the future, and as well as any previous addresses, as you mentioned. So you have full visibility to manage and simplify all of those future activities on that address.
And while you guys are checking that out, an elf told me that in our deploy last week, we actually snuck in one more feature, which is the ability for individual users to adjust what is taking up real estate on your screen in the GUI for your overview. So if you want to pull the contract up to the top, if you want to take the logs off of the overview page, if you want to move one icon over to the one feature over to the left-hand side and one over the right-hand side, you can do that. And it's all on an individual person's capabilities. What makes sense to me may not make sense to what Warren wants to see when he pulls up an account. What makes sense to a manager may be different than what a CSR needs to see. So if you haven't checked that out yet, it's literally an edit button and it's a one-to-one. So I can change it for myself. I'm not changing it for anybody else on what shows up on that overview. So make sure to check that out. I feel like that's that midnight infomercial, but wait, there's more. While you're checking out the future serviceable address feature, go ahead and check out this other. Now, Warren, you were also going to share with us a little bit of security updates as well.
Yes, that's right, Georgette. I wanted to also share last week that we introduced security enhancements to protect your customer data with the release of multi-factor authentication. So with MFA, we added an additional layer of protection by requiring a second verification step beyond just your user's passwords for login. And users have the option to choose from various factors, including email, SMS, and an authenticator app of their choice to further protect their security. As well as admins have the option to enforce MFA for all of their users in their instance, again, maximizing their security for their customer data.
You know, and security is such a huge item. And I know that we use Sonar in-house. We use Sonar for invoicing our customers, for ticketing with our customers. And so we spent the last couple of weeks turning on MFA for ourselves to leverage and make our team members accessing instance information for Sonar even more secure as well. So we're using those features right along with you guys, along with like the custom link feature. I mean, there's so many things that just make Sonar be a more robust platform. Warren, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And I'm gonna ask my brother Rick to come on back, and we're gonna take a look at what 2025 looks like.
Exciting stuff. Thanks, Georgette. Yeah, I mean, what I didn't want to do is just, kind of throw the roadmap on the screen and read it like a bedtime story. At the end of the day,
Nobody wants that.
No, No, and nor is it necessary, right? We like to make these things accessible to our customers. Anyone can go in-app into the resource center, which is the little question mark button. Click on that, go on roadmap, and you can look at that at any time. And our roadmap does go through periodic changes. Traditionally it's kind of quarterly, but it's it's not down to the hour. We will sometimes change it based on different things that are ebbing and flowing, but it is good to check it semi-regularly. And while you're there, if you haven't gone in a bit, I would implore you to check it out. With this latest update that we pushed out, I think about a month, maybe a month and a half ago, we included a link to a survey. This is a different survey. We're talking about surveys a lot here today. This is an in-app survey, and it's a much quicker survey than the one that we attached along with this event. And specifically, it has to do with the on the radar section of the roadmap. So the roadmap, for those that aren't as familiar, has three sections. It has the section of the stuff that we're literally got our hands in the clay right now working on, and we're going to talk about a couple of those things coming up. There's also a section on next, which is what's coming after that. But there's also an on the radar section, which has a number of items, and really that's meant to kind of give you a look into where we're headed strategically. What are the things that are valuable and important that we have our eyes on? And with that, again, because there's a bit more of those items, we included an in-app survey when you go visit the roadmap that you can kind of stack rank those and say, these are my top 3 out of this category. These are my top 3 out of this category. So please check that out if you haven't already. It's very quick, and it really allows us to just have best insight possible into what your personal opinions and preferences are on what Sonar is working on next. So we did,
and we take that feedback. The client relations managers take that feedback. We've got these surveys. We're always trying to listen to what people need, and there are sometimes shifts in the market that make us need to change what the platform provides for people. And I know the first item that we're going to talk about with inventory is not necessarily that big sexy module, but there's some refinement that we're going to be offering in the very near future. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. And I think we've been talking about this concept for a while. If I've had a chance to be, in front of you as a customer, or, on different breakout sessions that we've had, this topic has been brought up a bit because we knew this was an important, I would call it a gap. Quite honestly, it's not that these things can't be managed today, but there isn't a world-class way to do it. And in my mind, I would still call that a gap. So this is something that's being developed right now. I can talk about it in pretty good detail. And in the past, we kind of called it like unit-based inventory. Today, I'm going to call it segmentable inventory. So what do I mean by that? I mean, most of the time we're talking about stuff that comes on spools, fiber, cables, ducting, that kind of thing. And I think what's unique about managing that sort of inventory is that throughout its life cycle, it's kind of what I call inventory mitosis. Like you end up with, you start off, you order that spool of 1,000 feet, shows up at your warehouse, and then you have a use for it. So you dole out 150 feet of it, you cut it off. Well, what was 1 is now 2. That all makes sense in real life. And I think the best way for us to think about inventory management in Sonar is it's like a mirror to real life. How do I manage those things that are going to be splitting over time? And that's what we're essentially going to allow you to do. Now, for those that are familiar with the inventory in Sonar, there's essentially 2 flavors. You've got the generic inventory and you've got the standard inventory. Generic inventory is for things that you need to buy, you need to track, you need to have on hand. But once it gets used, you don't really care about it, I guess is the best way to put it. My favorite example of that is like tubes of caulking or sealant. You need to have those on hand. Your technicians need them in the van, but you're not going to want to go to that, the customer's Sonar account, go to inventory and see that there's 6 squirts of caulking that were used at the install, right? I mean, that's silly. So generic inventory has its place. And I think that there are, depending on what you're deploying from a cable perspective or fiber perspective, maybe you don't care and you can use generic and it works well, and some people do. But I think in this age of especially for those that are taking advantage of public funding. I think, there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? You get this money and it really does help you to kind of, accelerate your plans, throw gas on the fire, so to speak. But there's a lot of reporting requirements that come along with that. And you need to know literally down to the foot where these things are that you deployed and the relative value, monetary value of these items. So what I described with generic, awful thing to use for that. So then, you're looking at tracking it with traditional inventory items. So that's, I think, what catalyzes this as being such an important need and something that we're really excited to be bringing out soon.
Well, and Rick, I think that the funding requirements is a perfect tie-in to the next feature that we're going to be talking about, which I'm a data diva. I love data. I love looking at data. I love manipulating data. I love visualizing data. So I'm super excited about the Sonar Data Connect feature that is already in beta. So will you tell our guests a little bit more about what's going on there?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is, as Georgette said, something that is already real. It's already in beta, and I think, frankly, we knew there was a demand for this. Once word started getting out about this feature, we were, very kind of overwhelmed by the response to it, to be honest. So that's always nice to hear. I think that really this just is a reflection of what people are looking for, and obviously, if you're using Sonar to its fullest capacity, you're accruing a lot of data. There's a lot of just records themselves, the relationship between the records, and business intelligence and reporting is super important. Now, obviously, we offer native BI reporting, standard reports, the ability to generate custom reports. Sky's the limit if you really know what you're doing with that stuff, and that's great. But what it doesn't do is allow you to in those reports that you're making in Sonar, take any data that wasn't generated in Sonar and doesn't live within Sonar. And, the reality is, if you're using Sonar to its fullest, it doesn't do absolutely everything. You're going to have other peripheral systems that have their own data warehouses, and you have these disparate data sets. And oftentimes there are intersections between data that exists within Sonar and may be generated in something else. So what do you do? Well, traditionally, I think the best thing that you could do is create a report in Sonar that represents all the data you want to use. You would extract that. I mean, obviously, there are things that you can do. You can schedule custom reports to be delivered to your AWS, your email, etc. So there's a lot that you can do there. But then you got to take that report from Sonar and you got to take the report from System B, and then you have to bring them together. This is manual and it's suboptimal. So what can we do to allow you to have unbridled access to your Sonar data without having to go through some of those manual steps? So what Data Connect is, in a nutshell, is it's the ability for, I don't want to say this is strictly for enterprise, but I would say it's very popular for enterprise, where you have your own BI platform. It could be Looker, it could be Power BI, it could be Tableau. There's a lot of them on the market. Whatever your favorite one is, you are now going to have the capacity to have a pipe into the Sonar database. It's a unbridled access to read all of the data that you can access. So anything, any field, any data whatsoever in Sonar that you can access through the reporting, you can then access using this connector. But the nice thing is you're not having to go and scrape it out and take these reports and take these snapshots in time. You can do this lookup as you need the data with access to all of the tables in your own BI platform. So that's the value that we're talking about.
And speaking of value, Rick, this really is the first feature that we've launched that is not included in the all-you-can-eat subscription pricing that Sonar is available to our customers with. This is a bolt-on service and will be priced as a separate feature set because not everybody's going to need it. It won't be visible in every instance. Is there anything else you'd like to share about that kind of modeling, if you will?
Definitely. And that's a really important point. I think that's something that is worth mentioning, because traditionally, most of the features that end up on a roadmap and end up in the product are kind of included. You go to sleep the night before the deployment happens, you wake up in the morning, you got a new feature, and your bill stays the same, right? And I think you kind of teased out one important part of that, and that is this is a very important functionality to some, but it isn't necessarily important to all. So because there are real costs behind this in terms of our costs, our cloud costs, and this is big data that we're talking about, and we keep it all in high fidelity, and we keep it all in quick storage. So there's a cost that comes to that. So the fact that not everyone's going to use this, and also each individual is going to use it to a certain degree, it makes sense for us to tailor this around, okay, you're going to make use of this is what it's going to cost. For those that are curious about the general model, nothing is set in stone, but we are expecting that it's going to be a fixed monthly cost. So you'll be able to understand, okay, this is what this is, and you can use it as much as you want. So that's going to be the approach for that. And I think that, for those that are in that big data world, the price point is really going to, I think, quickly be justified if they are already going through those practices that I was describing. When you're making those reports and pulling them out and aggregating data, and bringing it together, you have people on your team. This is a specialized skill, and you pay for that skill. So if you have someone that's doing something manually just to bring that data together, and it can take a 2-hour task and take that down to a 5-minute task because it's all in the same data warehouse, there's your cost savings to offset it. So I think operationally it makes sense from all angles, but really it ensures that we're able to keep it at that high availability, high data fidelity, and we're not doing things like putting things into cold data storage after a year, or stuff like that. There's high availability on this, and I think that's essential to the concept.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing that behind the scenes information. I know that we also have on our roadmap for 2025 a couple of module refreshes. Do you want to give a little sneak peek to what the elves are doing in the Sonar workshop in regards to our standard modules?
For sure. I think that's a really important thing for us to touch on, because oftentimes when you're talking features, you're talking roadmap, it's the shiny things, it's the tinsel on the tree, right? To follow our analogies today. So we can't forget about the pillars of Sonar. And when you look at the time spent, and one of the things that I never forget as an operator, someone who used Sonar for years and depended on it, there were individuals within our ISP that if they were clocked in, they were using Sonar, right? If they were clocked in, they were using the ticketing module. Like, it was really that specific. So, these bread and butter pillars of the application, they need to evolve and grow along with, the world around them. And I think that when we look at some of these, highest touch pillars, things like ticketing, things like scheduling, we were talking about inventory with the segmentable inventory. We were also looking at all of the things surrounding and seeing all the great opportunity for us to keep pushing those solutions forward. It's something that we're going to be dedicating some roadmap space to in 2025 to make sure that we keep pushing the solution forward in general. And I get questions sometimes from customers about what's Sonar's AI strategy? How are you planning on leveraging these tools? And I think the best answer that I can give is, in a way where they are going to solve real problems. And we've all encountered every tool that we use now. You can get help writing something, for example. We could have put that in for ticketing, and maybe it can help you get your words out a little bit more quickly. But is that the most crucial problem that we can solve for you, right? We've identified a short list of some really exciting opportunities to leverage different strategies than are available today to really solve problems that otherwise are either time consuming or really just can't be done natively within the application. It's that sort of stuff that we're looking at sprinkling in, along with just good old fashioned housekeeping. Is there things that we can do in the UI to show more data, or to show data in a more meaningful way? Another thing that we're looking at is there a way that we can kind of evolve the concept? So going back to the example of ticketing, we would be great for Sonar to be aware of your SLAs. What are your obligations to your customer? And if we're aware of that, then we can actually provide those lenses in real time to understand how is the support team doing. Are there things that should be escalated because you're at risk of broaching SLA? I think there's a lot of things that we can do that would be very meaningful by just, like I said, just pushing the boundaries a little bit. And a lot of this is informed directly from customer feedback. We've been getting excellent feedback periodically from our users, and in very different locations through whether that's the feedback portal or live on calls or bubbling up through the CRMs or support teams or whatever. We take all of that information together and we look at the trends, and that's how we're able to know, okay, we're going to set some time aside for ticketing, we're going to set some time aside for scheduling, and we're going to push those concepts forward. So I think that's the best way to describe it. I know that it was kind of conceptual and maybe a little bit non-committal, but I think it's more about the ethos behind it rather than the specific things that we're going to be doing. And I can say as well, for those that are interested in these topics and maybe prioritize them on their in-app survey and that sort of thing, we're aware of the audiences within our user base that have already pledged interest in things. And as we start to get a little bit more specific around what our plans are, we'll go back to those groups and we'll preview concepts, or we'll do A/B testing, or we'll do all sorts of things to inform the final solution. So it's further incentivization for those to contribute their requests, because we will periodically check in with those groups to make sure that we're on the right track.
And I know that the names of our reindeer for the product roadmap are bigger, stronger, faster, and crawl, walk, run. We're trying to make sure that we're getting features out there, and then we're fine tuning and refining those features based on feedback from our customers. So, and all along the way, we're trying to help our customers grow their businesses in a meaningful way. And sometimes that means a change. I mean, even the FCC nutrition label was something that was not anywhere on our roadmap, and we had to
bingo card, but here it is.
was not on our bingo card, and we stopped and we got that sucker in there and made sure it was free for anybody to use, so that you could meet those regulatory requirements as well. So
absolutely. Since you brought that up, I have a little tidbit for those that are listening and those that are in the US and using that. One of the trending pieces of feedback that we're getting is around some of the things that have been deprecated from the FCC's requirements for that tool. So one small thing is like ACP, obviously that's no longer relevant, so it's not necessary on the label any longer. There are two versions of the nutrition labels that the FCC still accept as being valid. Because we were early to market, our tool is aligned to the first version. This second version that was released fairly recently, it doesn't have ACP on it. There's a couple of other minor changes as well. I just wanted to mention for those that are listening, don't worry, the labels that you are generating using our tool are still completely acceptable in the eyes of the FCC. You're good to go. They have not yet communicated, and if I'm wrong about this, please throw it in the chat because we're watching this very closely, but to my knowledge, they have not yet communicated a sunset date for that initial template. But this is something that we're watching. We're going to be ahead of the curve. We are going to update the tool in order to make sure that whatever labels are being generated, they are compliant, and that secondary version will come over time.
Rick, I think about Mrs. Claus as kind of being our additional integrations for Sonar. She's doing some things in the background too. And I know that you want to share a little bit about some additional integrations that we're looking at in 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I might keep this one mysterious and call back to the survey. I think probably everyone's aware at this point about the survey, but we have a lot of potential integrations that are on our radar. And I'll be blunt, this survey will drive our priorities for 2025. We are elbow deep in the clay right now for those roadmap updates that we will be pushing out at the beginning of the new year. We want to make sure we get this right. There are a lot of valuable opportunities for integrations, but at the end of the day, there's going to be an order that is going to be most valuable to most of our customers. So the data that we're getting will allow us to know what is the right place to start. But we are going to be setting aside a significant amount of roadmap space for 2025 to knock out these high value integrations. It's these natural intersections between Sonar and Platform X. This is the right way to do things. Just off the top of my head, just to kind of name a couple that come up all the time: Toronto, HubSpot, Nokia Altiplano, those sorts of things come up a lot. And obviously, we do pride ourselves on our comprehensive API, our huge library of webhooks. For those that are industrious, they don't have to wait, but certain things are better with internal integrations. As cool and as flexible and as amazing as some of the middleware solutions can be, being able to natively do certain things with inside Sonar is just the way to go. And that is the kind of thing that we're aware of is yes, you could build a basic solution in a middleware capacity, but you're going to have more value internally. And those are the things that we're, looking to inform from this data to make sure that we're building the right stuff first.
Excellent. Well, I know that our time is starting to get short on us, and I've been watching the chat. I'm not seeing a ton of questions in there, but if you guys have a couple of last minute questions, feel free to drop those in. Rick and I still have a few more housekeeping tasks to talk about, and one of those is I really want to encourage you guys to check out our knowledge base articles, check out that resource center, the circle with the question mark on it. Check out the casts. We continue to produce high quality videos that will help guide you on how to leverage the system. And then you can always schedule time with your client relations manager to do a deeper dive into your instance. Are there features that already exist in Sonar that you may not have lit up when you went through implementation the first time? Are there opportunities for you to look at best business practices that other very successful companies are leveraging, such as commission-based sales for your sales teams? That's something that you can solve a couple of different ways within Sonar. So I definitely want to encourage you to take a deeper dive, reach out to your client relations management team. And then, Rick, do you want to share a little bit about the status page?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, going back to just like what Steve was talking about at the beginning, if there happens to be an incident, anything going on with the platform, we understand how critical Sonar is to your business operations, and you're going to want to know if there's any sort of interruption going on. That doesn't necessarily mean a platform outage. Sometimes it's more segmented or more nuanced, but we're fastidious about making sure that our status page gets those updates as close to real time as possible, so you can be informed. So that's helpful, but it's a website, so if you've say you can't reach the application, well, yeah, you can confirm it's a problem on the status page, but it'd be good to be proactively alerted to that, right? The platform that we use for our status page has a number of options for you to take that from reactive to proactive. You can be informed the second we post something to that status page, and I would implore everyone to take the 30 seconds to a minute that it would take to choose your favorite flavor of data delivery and get that set up. So for the subscription, upper right hand corner, I think it's like a blue subscribe to updates button. You can get emails when we post to the status page. You can also get SMS messages. If you're a Slack user, you get a message right into your Slack. Or if you want to build something, maybe you have a company intranet, there's webhooks. So hey, if you want to get creative, you can get creative. And I think that is a really important thing to be able to tap into, because like I said, it's not necessarily big catastrophic things. It could be just one little thing that one plugin that is having an issue, but maybe you rely on that plugin and you want to know if there's any issues. Subscribing to this, you're the first to know.
Absolutely. Rick, I'm going to take just a few minutes to take some questions from the audience. The first question I see is, are there any updates on the GeoTab integration?
Awesome. Yeah. So with that survey, in fact, there was enough of the GPS vehicle tracking and telemetry vendors where they actually got their own page on the survey. I think there was 10 or 12 of them or something that we were already tracking. And then, of course, there was the fill in the blanks option for you to say, no, actually, it's company X that we use or that we're looking at using. And it's important for us to know. So right now, I believe there are 4 vendors that we support in our GPS tracking integrations that are currently live with Sonar. But the good news is for things like GeoTab, the foundation is set. So we built this in a way where there's a good amount of the foundation that is universal, essentially, and then it just comes down to some fine grain work with vendor X, vendor Y, vendor Z in order to bring them on. So for someone like Geotab, I know by the numbers in our feedback portal, that's one of the highest, if not the highest right now. So in terms of like looking at probability of seeing it next, I would say it is high on the list. And then obviously further informed from the data that we pull in through that survey, that's going to help allow us to understand that as well. So I think if it's not number one, it's number two. And it is much less work for us to add the additional vendors as compared to when we first brought that feature to the application.
Excellent. The next question is, are there plans to make a Sonar app for regular users and not just field technicians?
Great question. Great question. And yes, I mean, we, of course, it's right in the name of the app in the App Store. There's no secret about it. The actual iOS Android app that Sonar maintains is for the features that are traditionally necessary for the field technicians to do their work. Obviously, it centers around jobs, checking into the job, completing the job, looking up data on the account related to the job. But Sonar has a whole lot going on more than that. So I think the best answer to this question is we are looking at the overall solutions moving forward. There are lots of ways to access information on a mobile device, and a dedicated app is only one of them, right? There is also an investment that we could make into having an optimization of the mobile experience. And if we invest in that, then there isn't necessarily a need to have a standalone app. And that may be a more tenable approach to this, especially if we don't want to have the bounds around particular personas or particular employee sets. And we just want to say, hey, you can use Sonar on your phone now. So that's the best answer that I can give today. And I can let you know that is a big topic behind the scenes and something that we do want to have a bit more of a strategic answer on sooner or later.
Okay, next question is, are there any new third-party integrations that are not Actify, Salesforce, or any CRM where we can quote customers, better scheduling, etc.? And I think I'd like to take a little stab at this as well. If there's an integration that can be solved via middleware in the short term, we do offer professional services in-house now that we would be able to help connect the dots, if you will, between different systems that we don't have a native integration for. So if you want more information about that or a quote for that service, please reach out to your client relations manager and we can get the ball rolling on that. And Rick, anything else you'd like to say about maybe our marketplace concepts and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So just visiting Cody's question, cherry picking a couple of things out of there, talking about like quoting for customers, better scheduling, etc. I think to Georgette's point, if there is a platform that is, that you're targeting or that you already use, we'd want to know, and we can kind of inform whether or not there's likely to be an integration coming or if there's opportunity for middleware solutions, whatever the case may be. Scheduling in particular, if you're planning on using Sonar for your scheduling, that was one of the main modules that we're going to be investing in for 2025. So ticketing, scheduling, inventory, that's where we're aware that there's opportunities to expand on that. So Cody, specifically for scheduling, I think what we can do is kind of take a note that is something that you are interested in. And as we start to actually work on that, we can bring you into the inside circle there. We can learn better how we could expand on the existing solutions to make that work for you. So I think that's probably my best answer on that. For some of those things, they may not be best suited through integrations. It could be solved through investments that we're already planning.
And we've got time for one more question. So I'm going to take Nolan's question on any estimates on the cost of the new data access.
I don't think that we have that to be shared yet. That should be coming very soon. We're just looking at different models on it. One of the things that is important through, like we mentioned, it is currently in a beta. We get lots of value out of the beta. We're learning what the customer experience is, making sure that the solution is the way it needs to be, making sure our documentation is the way it needs to be. But we're also learning, like I said, there are hard costs behind the scenes of this feature, and we're learning that. So ultimately, that's going to inform where it sits on the retail side of things for you all. So that information is coming soon. We're really bringing a fine point to that concept very quickly. So I would say that's something that I would like to be able to share kind of along with our updates in the new year when we do have new roadmap items and that sort of thing.
Well, we promised you guys a drawing for bearing with us during this hour, and we've got this fancy wheel, click to spin, and we're going to see who our winner is for the oh gosh, what are they called again, Rick? AirPod Max.
Apple AirPods Max, the ones that go over your ears. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Lindsay clicked the button. George is in the middle. Our Sonar logo we affectionately call George in-house, and it looks like our winner is Austin. Congratulations. We will be in touch and we will ship those directly to you. I think you even get to select what color of the headphones you want to select. So our team will get in touch with you shortly and make sure that we get that out to you.
Congrats.
From everyone here at Sonar, we want to wish each and every one of you, your team members, your family members, the very merriest of Christmases, happy holidays, Kwanzaa, all the things, all the Happy New Year, Festivus for the rest of us, whatever that is for you and your family. We definitely want to help you celebrate. And thank you for making 2024 amazing. I'm here to tell you, I think 2025 is going to be our best year yet, and I cannot wait. So thanks for taking the time to join us today. We really appreciate you guys, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Hear, hear. Thanks, Georgette. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.
Take care.